This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
Happy Thanksgiving. Come on, guys. It's a great week. I love this week. This is my favorite week of coaching, really. I don't know if it's because of all the rival games that have taken place that I used to watch as a kid or even as a high school coach when I wasn't coaching college, and you just lay around and eat and watch games. But then when I got into college coaching and was a part of some of those rival games, this week just became special to me for the time and the quality of time you get to spend with your players. And I try to make the most of this week in regards to our approach to being thankful for all we have and grateful for what. Even if our young men or even our staff are going through difficult times, there's still so much to be thankful for. And so we started with that this Sunday, and that's kind of our approach. We have adopted each position group has kind of adopted a family for this week, and we look forward to going out and spending some time with them starting tomorrow afternoon and Wednesday afternoon, and making sure their Thanksgiving is everything it can be, and look forward to hearing the stories from our staff and our kids. So we're excited about this week, and so very disappointing in the way we played Saturday. Didn't think we were prepared accordingly. That's my fault, and our staff's fault. I made, in hindsight, I think I probably would. I made a lot of this game, and I think maybe I did not accurately assess how our kids viewed it, and it was almost like the moment was a little too big for us right now in their eyes when adversity hit, and we did not respond with poise or discipline and didn't handle adversity very well. And it meant a lot to those kids, and they weren't quite sure how to handle that game. And I really thought we had kind of turned that corner from the way we played at BYU, and I felt like Virginia and BYU were very similar. And 53 plays into the game, we're leading 14-10. In the latter part of the second quarter, and driving to score more points. And then a series of events happened that were out of character for some of our kids, and the score gets flipped. Instead of us scoring, they scored. Then we drive back down, miss a field goal, which would have put points and kept it a one-score game, and then they score again. And there was a different feel in our locker room at halftime that I really haven't experienced. And I think it was just the disappointment of them wanting to do well in that game, which meant a lot to them. Really, it was a bit overwhelming to them. And so that's where we are in our program, and we'll learn from it, coaches and players, and move forward and give credit to Virginia. They're a very good football team, very well coached, and got a chance to win their conference, their side of the conference this week. So Bronco does a great job, and certainly don't know if I'm not at all standing here saying we would have won the game, but I do think it would have taken us playing a really, really, really solid football game. And if we did that, I think we could have been in it. And that's the frustrating thing, is that we as coaches couldn't get our team to that point of being in it and having a shot. And I thought we were very capable of being in it. So it's just like the fourth down play where the fake field goal or whatever you want to call it. I mean, we worked that, and our kids were even, there he is, number 10's in. It's a fake, it's a fake, it's a fake. And yet our awareness to say it's really a fake. I mean, again, I'm saying, all right, I don't have to call a timeout. We've drilled this. And then I see Jesse and the others. There he is. There's 10. It's the backup quarterback. It's a fake. And yet we freeze and don't guard the eligible guys. So I've got to coach that better. I was sick to my stomach that I didn't call a timeout, but I know what I saw, and I said, they see it, they're pointing him out, we've got it, and then we don't have it. And so I've just, I'm learning our team still and where we are. And now the focus this week has shifted. I've shifted it some after the experience of last weekend. Our focus this week is impacting and loving each other. It really is. And I think if we can accomplish that, the effort that will be given on a Saturday afternoon will be one that we're proud of. And not talking so much about what's on the line. And I think they know that. And I think maybe the more I talk about it, that's maybe not the right approach for the current state of who we are. And so we're going to focus on, let's impact and love one another this week. And may it be evident in everything we say and do and how we prepare. And then Saturday will take care of itself.
24 hours removed from the game at UVA, when you got the team back together, given the importance of this game coming up Saturday, what was the energy like?
It was not, we were all disappointing, very much so. It was as disappointed as I've been in a while in the way we performed, and I think our kids felt the same way. Sunday's about the truth, so I shared exactly with them what I shared with you, and then moving forward, our lesson this week is the last chapter in the Traveler's Gift, which is I will persist without exception. So its timing was perfect, and then went into here's how we attack this week. We didn't watch the tape. I never do that going into the last week of the season. I don't know why. I just never have. It's what I witnessed, and so that one was in the garbage really quick. And now we move to spending a lot of time together preparing for a New Mexico State team that's on a 2-game win streak and playing extremely hard. I give them credit to not have something to play for. They are playing really, really hard, and they've got some of their players back. 2 defensive linemen, 51 and 18, are back that did not play against us. They're really quality players, and 1 and 2 on offense scare you to death. Their quarterback's playing at a high level also, so they're playing extremely hard. And it was a close game out there, and I expect another one this Saturday. But we quickly shared the truth of our disappointment, and then said, part of maturity is putting it past you. You can't do anything about it, and certainly don't need to let that game beat you another week when you're not playing Virginia anymore. You're playing another team, so we've got to put it behind us.
You mentioned this is a special week for you and the team's engagement with families and a note of Thanksgiving. What is Thursday going to look like for the team and the staff?
We'll practice early, and then we will have Thanksgiving lunch together with our families and players, and then Thursday night some will do position groups at their position coach's house. So we'll get to spend a lot of time together Thursday.
Defensively, you had 3 players leave the game with injury: Brandon Tillman, Javon Scruggs, and Isaac Steele. Do you have an update on those 3?
Tillman is doubtful. The other 2 are at the doctor as we speak, and we expect them both to play, just from talking to Barry, but it's still a little premature to say.
Coach, what concerns you most about this? What's your fondest memory from the first?
That I was able to be there, thanks to the goodness of President Falwell and Ian and Todd and those guys. They flew me out there, and because I was at a point that I was just now kind of getting on my feet. We traveled the pit box out there, and it was kind of one of the first road games I think Liberty's won against the FBS opponent in a while. So that was a good memory. I thought our kids found a way to win, having not played our best out there. It easily could have gone the other way. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times, and they have explosive people on their team, athletic kids that can make plays, and so it's going to be a task for us for sure. But I do remember just our kids were very excited to go and win on the road.
Does it have an advantage in preparation in a week like this with a holiday that you have experience against a team this year that the players are fairly fresh with knowing what their schemes were like and what they tend to do?
I think you could say, a lot of people say it's a disadvantage because it's hard to beat a team that's fairly equal to you twice in one season. You could look at it the other aspect and say we're very familiar, so we should have a good knowledge of the game plan and the ones we have to stop. So I think it just depends on who you talk to, whether it's an advantage or disadvantage. I think it'll come down to which team prepares the best and makes the fewest mistakes Saturday.
Senior Day Saturday. We all know AGG and Buckshot have written a lot of Liberty records. With you being here the last year, what can you say about them as far as their impact to this program, taking it to the FBS level?
Invaluable. These seniors have welcomed me with open arms, and they've probably taught me as much as I've taught them. And I don't want to be emotional going into this game for these seniors, but obviously, I don't want them to end it Saturday. I think that they have paid their dues, like many senior classes have around the nation, to get this program to this point, to where you are at least in the discussions of bowl games and competing against teams like BYU, Virginia, and others. And you got to give these seniors credit for getting it to this point. And Turner Gill and the job he did in bringing a quality group like this senior class together to help the transition. And so I've been very blessed to be a part of it, and certainly want to see it extended a little bit, mostly for those seniors.
Coach, your theme this year was tougher together and rise with us. Looking back on the season, how has this mindset or this attitude framed your team?
I think we've been tougher together in a lot of instances. I think there's instances where we haven't measured up to that standard that we should learn from, like last Saturday, which we've talked about. And I didn't think our mental toughness was where it needed to be to sustain the level of play we had to have throughout that game. And so that's just another great teaching tool of the game of football for our young men and for life. It's not always going to shake out the way you want it to. It's not always going to go your way, and sometimes the ball bounces a different way, and you don't get the job, or you lose that job, and all of these experiences are hopefully what will make our young men tougher together as they go into life, particularly these seniors. And so that's one of the greatest themes I think I've ever been a part of, and hopefully the things that we've said and talked about throughout the given weeks will resonate and stick with our kids as they move on to the next phase of their life.
When you guys played New Mexico State before, that's the fewest passing yards you guys have had in a game this season was against them. Was that more about their scheme? What did they do against you? Or do you feel like you guys have grown in that aspect of your game and it's not as much of a concern this time around?
We've definitely grown. They really hurt us in the way they chose to blitz our protections, and we have obviously made adjustments in that and changes that I think will give us more time. And, I think we just have improved in our passing game. And that was one of the first games that they kind of rolled the coverage to AGG some, and I think we have a lot better toolbox right now than we did then.
In that game, you're still in the phase of complementary football. Since they haven't faced your tempo attack live on the field, does that give you an advantage going into Saturday, that if you choose to go that route?
Yeah. It's still early in the game planning for me to say exactly what the approach will be. Complementary football worked in that stretch for us, and we'll have to see how the game is unraveling there, but still a bit early to tell.
Is this the first time you've faced the same opponent twice in one season? And Is it an advantage or just really awkward for you?
NAIA faced a team in regular season and then in the 16-team national playoff. So I've done that once before. We won both of those, so hopefully that's a good sign. So it's not my first time around, but certainly it's unique.
CJ Yarborough got some extended reps in the game Saturday, and just your thoughts on his play and the prospects for him moving forward.
I think CJ is going to be a star. He's shown it time and time again in practice. He is a great kid, loves to work, is very outspoken leader, and I think that's something that's going to be really good for us building our program around kids like him, DeMario Douglas, and guys that are really strong in their faith, strong in who they say they are, and are willing to lead not only by actions but vocally.
Someone like CJ, how do you approach this week's game with, he's played 3 games, the potential of maybe having a bowl game?
Yeah,
you just try to play to win? Or?
That's an easy one for me. We're playing to win. It's unfortunate. I wish I could go back and do one game differently for him, but we are who we are right now, and he's got 3 games under his belt, and he has 1 more left, and we only have 1 left on the schedule. So it's we'll play to win.
Coach, you've led a tremendous example of a leader, not only to your team but to the fans as well. This is your first season within the program with Liberty. Can you just shed some light going into your last game on your experience with everyone?
Well, that's kind words. I think leadership in football as a football coach really can be determined. Probably won't be determined how effective I was in leading until about 10 years from now. I think that's when you'll really see the Frankie Hicksons. Did whatever I do or say or model, did it stick, with him 10 years from now? And I am, I have great joy in hearing from my former players from previous stops, and many of them it has taken. I don't know that it always was with. I mean, it was always with them, but people tend to kind of drift a little downstream at some point in their life for some reason. But man, to hear kids say, man, what you did, what you said, what you modeled, that's now what I'm living and chasing, and I have great hope that would be the same for these young men here that have only spent a short amount of time with me, and our staff. And certainly I couldn't do it without the staff. They spend more time with the kids than I do individually. And hopefully the tone that I set with them, and then they model it out, and then the model that we are with our wives and our kids, that it impacts these young men. And but I assure you, this year's been I haven't really looked at myself as man, I got to lead. I just want to be who I am, and really I've received through the gift that Liberty gave me and my family, so much more than I could give, because returning to coaching at a place that your kids feel great and your wife feels great was not the easiest decision for me, and it was made with a lot of prayer and still a lot of anxious times. And my kids are flourishing. At least they seem to be. They're not perfect. They could go off the rails today, just like kids could. But I asked them quite frequently, "How are you here?" And man, the answer is great, and I see it, and so I'm going on a tangent, but I've received more than I think I've given this year.
Buckshot, after the great stretch without him, had the 2 interceptions. How do you help him get past that? How do you help him not?
Oh, one thing about Buckshot is he's resilient now. He's not. You won't see a guy that walks around down or dejected or cowardly this week in him. it was certainly out of character. The second one was a whole different animal to me. I mean, it's fourth down and he's got pressure and you can't take a sack then. But the first one was so out of character. He hadn't done that all year, and it was just an RPO that has to come out on time, and it's either incomplete or we have it, but we don't ever throw them away in the middle of the field. And, again, they're still young men, and he knew it as soon as he did it. But he'll respond accordingly and correctly.
Coach, Saturday is a home game, but with the students out, it's not going to feel like a normal home game. How much help do you need from Lynchburg to come out and support the Flames and make it feel like more of a home game?
Well, that's a good question. The approach we will take is we might be all we have, and we're all we'll need. Now, having said that, would I love for Lynchburg to show up and support our young men to help us during this Thanksgiving week? Absolutely. It would be a huge advantage, and I would love to see you there. I was at church yesterday, and I know that that church announced, hey, let's go and support them, in their bid to win a 7th football game in their first year in FBS, and I was thankful that the pastor did that, and so it would be great if that happened. Should it not, that can't be a reason for us not to play with emotion and passion and pride. So I'm double talking there a little bit, but it sure would be nice for all of Lynchburg to show up and support us.